In this video, I'm going to give you 5 sales strategies for beginners, and if you follow everything in this video, you will be able to know how to sell anything to anyone. Also, stick with me to the end and I'll give you a priceless bonus to skyrocket your sales career. Without further ado, let's get started. I will start this video with a very bold statement. Almost everything in this world is about sales. Whatever we do in our everyday lives, we are either selling something to someone or someone is selling something to us. Sales affects our everyday lives, including how we live and even who we become. I know most people see sales as convincing someone to buy an item or a commodity you sell, but that's just the literal meaning. In sales, you transfer a form of emotion, and that's certainty. You guarantee people that when they buy your idea, product or service, they will reap great benefits. So, whenever you convince someone to do something you want them to do, sales just happened. You sold something. As an entrepreneur, when you want to bring to life a problem-solving idea, you need to work with other people. In other words, you employ people to work with you. And how do you get them to work with you? You get them to work with you by selling them the idea and convincing them to accept your offer. That's sales. The politicians in your country are campaigning for you to vote them into power. That's sales. How about convincing your child to read law instead of medicine? How about getting your kids to do their homework on time or getting them to lay their beds? The scenarios of sales are endless and they happen every day in our lives. So, whenever you hear people or yourself saying, "I don't like salespeople are crooks," guess what? We are all crooks. Before I continue, if you have not, please consider subscribing to this channel because we post a video that will help you on your self-development and financial freedom journey. We post videos on weekly basis, so don't forget to turn on the notifications so you won't miss any video we upload. As a beginner who wants to be successful in life, you need to learn to sell because it's part of our everyday lives and that makes sales very important. So how do you sell anything to anyone as a beginner? Or do I put, how do you get people to do what you want them to do? First of all, you should have a very good product, service, or idea that solves a specific problem. You should not sell crap or something you won't buy yourself if you had the same problem. Once you have something to sell, you should look for a prospect or prospects. A prospect simply means a potential buyer. It then becomes your duty as a salesperson to turn the prospect into a buyer. Though it is not as easy as convincing someone to buy food when they are hungry, but it is not impossible. That's where these 5 sales strategies for beginners come to play. The first sales strategy for beginners is effective communication. This is the first of 5 sales strategies for beginners I'm giving you because what is the point in speaking when no one gets what you are saying? Be a good communicator, learn to write well, and also learn to speak well. Practice is the only thing that can make you a good communicator because the things we have to learn before we do, we learn them by doing them. It is good communication that will help you advertise yourself or your products. And advertisement or being able to sell yourself out there is very important because if people are not coming to you, then you won't be able to sell anything to anyone. Before you actually make a sale, people must pay attention to you to know what your brand is about and its benefits to their lives, and you do that by advertising yourself through effective communication. It may interest you to know that one of the common problems among beginners in sales is obscurity, that is, people don't know them. To really put yourself out there, social media is very powerful and can help very well. This is basically how you find prospects for your products. The second sales strategy for beginners is do not talk too much. When you find a prospect and you are in the process of making them a buyer, one mistake you should avoid is too much talking. The presentation should be a dialogue, not a monologue. You should get a prospect to be talking more by asking them questions to know their pain points. One thing is that some prospects do not even know what their problems are. Most of them know that they are running a $10 million company and they want to take it to the next level, say $50 million, but they do not know how to move from where they are to where they want to go. So, it is your responsibility as a salesperson to get them talking, especially about business concerns in general. and by doing so, you will be able to dig into their challenges pertaining to your product. You need to diagnose the problems of your prospects first, even before you try to tell them about the benefits of your product or service, because nobody cares about your product until it can solve their problems. A lot of beginners in sales make the mistake of pitching whatever they are selling and start presenting the features and benefits. Then they may be asked a couple of questions and they go right back into the presentation. This doesn't give the prospect any value, and as a result, when the salesperson wants to close the sale, the prospect either rejects the product or says they will think about it and never gets back. When you are able to clearly lay down your prospect's problems, you have to create value and provide solutions. Nobody cares about your company and the awards you have won. Prospects care about solutions. Keep your presentation brief and do not talk too much without engaging the prospects. This really gets them into the presentation and they pay close attention to you. What if your product cannot solve the problem of your prospects? That leads me to the third sales strategy for beginners, and that is be authentic. Just focus on the problems of your prospects and provide solutions. Do not lie. I can't stress this enough. When you realize your product is not a solution to your prospects' problems, I recommend referring them to other products or solutions you think can help them, or simply telling them you can't help them, period. By doing so, you make sales though, but not in the form of a product. This time, you sell trust, and the next time you say your product is the best for them, they will not hesitate to buy from you because they trust you, and whenever the need arises, they will also recommend you to people who may need your products. When it comes to authenticity, I believe in flexibility. That is, thinking about the situation from your perspective and taking into consideration all that you have learned about the prospect. Sometimes you have very limited time to make a specific number of sales or to bring in a specific number of clients. In this case, you should disqualify non-fits immediately because you cannot waste time on someone who doesn't have any business to do with your product or service. In other times too, when you are not under the pressure of limited time, you can try to provide solutions outside your context even when the prospect is a non-fit. This can also help you gain trust from the prospect. Please click on the like button because it helps me reach out to more people, and comment down below what you think about authenticity in sales. The fourth sales strategy for beginners that I want to share with you is being able to connect with a prospect. Since sales is the transfer of the emotion of certainty, every encounter between you and the prospect should be aimed at getting them to trust that your product is the best solution to their problems. And this can only be achieved when there is a deeper connection between the two of you. Sometimes, following the first 3 sales strategies for beginners will help you connect with a prospect, but most of the time, it requires effort. Research on salespeople in general shows that those who are able to connect with a prospect have a higher chance of closing the sale than salespeople who do not, and the closing usually comes natural without any closing techniques. By asking a lot of questions, you are able to know a lot about who your prospect really is. And you can even buy a $5 gift for them, and since they value the gift, they will like you. And at this point, it's not about what you sell, it's about the thoughts behind the gift. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Imagine meeting someone who acts and behaves like you. You build rapport with the person, right? That leads me to another way of connecting with a prospect, and that is to act like them, though not in an offensive way. You can imitate their sitting position or use some common words they like to use. Essentially, you try to vibrate at the same frequency they are vibrating so that you can get them to take the right decision, that is to buy your product. One importance of connecting with a prospect is that it helps you know their buying process. That is, who will also have to agree for them to take that buying decision. Knowing this will guide you on how to present your solutions to the prospects. The last sales strategy for beginners that I want to share with you is do not give up. It is as simple as it sounds. All great salespeople know that it takes 4 to 5 no's to get a yes. Usually, the no means I'm not certain. So they need more assurance to actually say yes, and that can only be achieved if you don't give up. Just like everything else in this world, sometimes you have to take risks. When you realize that your prospect is not following along, even in your short presentation, you can make a risky comment such as, "Alright, Mr. Gates or Miss Jackson, I know this doesn't make sense, I get it." And most of the time, that risk will be rewarded with a positive statement such as, "Oh, not at all, please continue," or "I'm sorry my mind wasn't here, please continue." This really pulls them back into the conversation. Also, put at the back of your mind that it's not every prospect who will buy your product. Some will, some won't. So what next? Just move on to other prospects. There you have it, the 5 sales strategies for beginners. Some prospects are difficult, and so if you have a free version of your product or a way for them to test your product or service before purchasing, offer it to them, and if it helps them, they'll immediately buy it. About the price, talk about it later in the process. Focus on providing value throughout. In that case, when you talk about the price, the prospect doesn't really think about it because the solution is more valuable. Schedule next steps with a prospect if one meeting or one phone call cannot complete the sale. When a prospect is ready to schedule a next meeting with you, it's usually a sign that they are still interested in your offer. Does these 5 sales strategies for beginners still sound confusing? And now to the bonus I promised. But before I continue, please like the video and share to your friends. Thanks for doing that because it really helps the channel. Now, I know you buy things on a regular basis. Some of them you were contemplating on buying, but at the end of the day, you bought them. And I'm not talking about the necessities you have to get from the grocery store. I am talking about the high-ticket items and the things you could have lived without, but you bought. Get a sheet of paper and write these items down and indicate beside each of them the reason why you bought them, even though you didn't really need some of them. I mean, the reason that made you stop contemplating and brought out money to purchase them, or the reason why you bought that brand instead of the other brands. When you have a reasonable list, start analyzing the reasons and you'll be amazed the information you'll get to know from your own buying habits. If those reasons were able to make you buy things you were contemplating on buying, then they can make people like you buy even more things. Now, go and start practicing what you have learned. Subscribe to the channel if you found value, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so you won't miss any video we upload. See you in the next video.